Hi folks, it's Michael again from Countryside. Today we're going to talk about the importance of watering. Like what happens every year, we had a frost just a couple of weeks ago, and now we're in blazing hot summer. We go straight from cold to summer. So hopefully you guys didn't plant your stuff too early and waited like I told you to. So none of your crops failed at all up until this point. But we're going to talk about watering today, just to make sure people are watering things correctly. So it hasn't rained much at all. Most plants in the ground, when they're planted, need a good inch of water per week on a regular basis to keep going. Some of the plants, especially when you plant them when they're younger, don't need as much water. As they age, of course, the plants get bigger. They'll need more water at that time. So most of you are planting your vegetable gardens at this point and other plants in the ground. So always think about what we're starting with. So if we're going to start with a plant like this, you're going to plant your tomatoes that are about this size. Think about what the plant looks like. So the plant is about 8 inches tall, and the root structure is all in this little pot right here. If you're going to plant a plant like this, that's already pretty good size. This plant is already about 4 feet tall, and the root structure is all in that little pot right down there. So think about when we plant these things. Remember that these plants, the root structure of the plant is all going to be in this little tight area. Even when we put it in the ground, it's going to take a while for the roots to spread out and get enough water to get to where they get enough water to do their growing and such. So when these plants first start out, just give them a good soaking. It's good to have an attachment like this to your hose that have different settings to it. So this is what you don't want. You don't want to jet water out like this. You want to have more like a steady stream, like a shower like this. That works the best. So once your plants are planted, you want to get them a good soaking. You got to go over it a few times. Just because the top layer of the soil is wet doesn't mean there's enough moisture there. So usually stand out here for a good minute or two for each little section of garden that you have to make sure it's good and soaked. Sometimes you wait for the water to pool a little bit on the top of the soil, let it soak in, maybe go to a different area and then come back and do it again just to make sure there's a decent amount of water that's on your soil surface. So since we haven't had a lot of rain, the best thing to do is to soak the soil a couple times a week. Watering every day is really not the best thing to do, because when you're watering every day, the plants don't need that much because they're young right now. And number two, it's better to give it a good deep soaking a couple times a week as opposed to just a little spraying every day. When it comes to a container garden, container gardens are a little easier. Containers, you can put plants that are in pots already. You do the same thing. We give it a shot of water into the container and make sure it just drains out the bottom. This is pretty easier to do because you can actually visually see that the water is coming out the bottom of the pot. Then you know that the plant is saturated. I always think in terms like this. When you say you're watering your plants, you're really not watering your plants. What you're doing is you're watering the soil. The soil is getting the water. The plant has to take the water from the soil. So that's why we need to soak everything really well so that the soil is saturated. Once the soil is saturated, it will give up the water to the plants. If you're just giving a little sprinkle of water, the soil is going to hold on to that water, and it's not even going to give it up to the plants as easily as it should. So that's why you want to give everything a good saturation. Another thing you could do, it works really well, is get a soaker hose. Like these come in 50-foot lengths. So what we do is you kind of zigzag it through your garden when the plants are young like this, and that way you can attach a hose to it and you let it soak. It drips water through the entire length of the hose. So that way you don't lose any water to evaporation that way, and it soaks your soil very quickly and easily, and it's much easier to do than you standing there for that long and soaking it yourself. So more economical, easy, simple way to do it, less evaporation. Great, and you got to do it now. You got to put it in when your plants are young, so you can get around it with the hose and stuff and get it set, ready to go. So hopefully we'll get some rain in the near future. Otherwise, good luck, and hopefully we'll have a good summer. Good day.